take a picture. Okay. 正经最前线，无马看中国。我是陈小农。今天我们在美国华府的一个著名智库，智库的名称叫做 German Marshall Fund， 就是德国马歇尔基金会，它在美国的总部。我们今天在这里是采访这个美国这家智库的一位著名的中国问题专家 Bonnie Glaser， 葛来仪女士。那么今天我们很荣幸有这个机会把我们观众带到这个现场，我们来采访葛来仪女士，她会给我们分享很多关于美国的中国政策圈，也包括台湾政策在内，会怎样来看待现在以及将来的这个形势的演变。当然我会在后边特别会问到一些关于台湾目前社会当中关于未来两岸关系的演变有各种的预期，那么这些预期对美国来讲，美国的中国问题专家们、政策分析圈里，他们怎么看待这些问题？我想这也是我们台湾观众朋友们非常想关心知道的事情。好，下面我们就来向各位观众朋友们介绍我们今天采访的嘉宾格雷瑟女士。Ms. Glaser, this is our great honor to have this opportunity to interview here. And we would like to take this time to ask you several simple questions. And actually, they are very important for Taiwanese audience. They want to know a lot. First of all, what do you think in the coming year, in this year, or probably including next year, what the PRC would make their strategy against the states? Are they going to cooperate with the states in the future, or do you think that they may have something different they're going to do?
After President Biden and China's leader Xi Jinping met in Bali, Indonesia at the end of last year, there was an agreement between the two presidents to try and stabilize the relationship. The United States proposed putting a floor under the relationship, and I think that China sees it as in its interest to try and prevent further deterioration of the U.S.-China relationship. However, there are many obstacles. The United States is pursuing a series of policies that China strongly objects to. Some of them involve Taiwan, such as providing weapons to Taiwan, which China has long opposed. The new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, is likely to visit Taiwan later this year. Beijing strongly opposes that as well. And then there are actions that are being taken to restrict technology transfer to China, particularly in the area of semiconductors. Xi Jinping asked President Biden if the two countries could establish principles to guide the relationship. And our senior officials on both sides have started to have that conversation. But that's very, very difficult because we don't agree on the principles that should guide the relationship. China wants win-win cooperation. It wants mutual respect, which really means respect for China's core interests. And China's core interests sometimes conflict with the core interests of the United States. That said, I think that Xi Jinping faces many challenges and difficulties at home. There's, of course, COVID. Now that the zero COVID policy has been lifted, there have been, we don't know how many cases and how many deaths. The impact on the economy has been, I think, far more negative than Xi Jinping anticipated. And so I think he's focused on some of these domestic issues. There's debt, there's the real estate market. So I think for this year, Xi Jinping does want to have a more stable relationship with the United States. The two presidents may meet again at the G20, possibly. It will be held in Delhi in September. And it will, of course, the United States will host the APEC meeting, likely in November in San Francisco. So the two leaders will have potential opportunities to meet. So there is the potential that this year may be more stable, but I doubt that we will see much improvement. And I believe that Xi Jinping's vision for China's role in the world, which includes weakening the United States and its allies, has not changed. I do not think that Xi Jinping believes that he has made serious mistakes in his foreign policy. So any adjustments that we see in his policies toward the United States and other countries, I think is largely tactical.
Okay, that's very clear point. And secondly, I would like to ask, what do you think that in this year, our Biden administration is going to make some further changes in terms of the China policy, make more, as you mentioned, arms sales and also diplomatic talks and a lot, and also including our economic policies. So do you think we're going to have more policy changes in this year, or we'll just keep it as it is?
I expect consistency in the Biden administration's approach to China, to Taiwan, to the Indo-Pacific region overall. From the beginning, the Biden administration has been focused on strengthening the United States and bolstering relations with our allies and partners, and then using the progress in those two areas to compete more effectively with China. This came to be labeled the invest, align, and compete strategy. And I believe that this continues to be the strategy going forward. There is an enormous emphasis on working with allies and partners around the world. And this is especially important because the United States cannot achieve its objectives vis-a-vis China if it is working alone. So as far as the Taiwan component of that strategy, it involves bringing in as many partners as possible to help strengthen Taiwan's security, to deter any Chinese aggressive action against Taiwan. And of course, this not only means use of force, but also some of the other pressures that China is putting on Taiwan. Its efforts to squeeze Taiwan's international space, to use economic coercion against Taiwan, and to demonstrate support for Taiwan, to strengthen ties between countries in Taiwan. So I think that this remains also part of the Biden administration strategy. So I do not think that we will see any major changes from this strategy in the final 2 years of Biden's first term.
As I mentioned a little bit earlier, that as you probably already notified that in Taiwan there are two eventual voices regarding the relation Taiwan Strait. That is, if we should defend our country with more efforts, or we should negotiate with China to find out a peace, a possible peace. So do you think American policymakers, including think tanks, do they really know what is going on with the two voices? And do you think the two voices would affect U.S. policy, U.S. Taiwan policy in the near future, or it doesn't matter?
Well, there's always been several voices in Taiwan, so it is not new that some people in Taiwan think that working out some arrangement with China might be the best for Taiwan's future, and others do not. However, of course, if you look at the public opinion polls, we do see that there is less and less support for reunification with China, and there is growing support for independence. That said, I think the vast majority of people in Taiwan still support maintenance of the status quo. From the U.S. point of view, the United States does not take a position on sovereignty in Taiwan, but it does insist on any peaceful resolution of differences between the two sides of the strait. So it really is a question of trying to shape the way that China responds to Taiwan. I think that the United States should encourage China to use less pressure and coercion against Taiwan. We don't know if Beijing will come up with some alternative to one country, two systems, equal liangzhi, which is very unpopular in Taiwan and was unpopular in Taiwan even before Hong Kong became the target of great coercion against Hong Kong by China. But I think that Xi Jinping has doubled down on one country, two systems. There are some rumors that perhaps he will develop some new offer for Taiwan. It would be interesting if he did, but I'm personally rather skeptical. But from the U.S. point of view, we have not in the past taken a position on what the outcome of arrangement should be if there were to be some agreement made between the two sides of the strait. The United States has long said that we would support any outcome that the people of Taiwan wanted to see. So it would have to be through some kind of a vote or referendum, not imposed on the people by the government. That said, I think that the vast majority of people in the United States who understand this issue believe that the system that exists in the People's Republic of China is not one that the people of Taiwan want to live under. And so the best policy from the U.S. point of view is to prevent war, preserve Taiwan's democracy, its freedoms, its autonomy, until such time as the differences could be worked out between the two sides of the strait peacefully, because we do not want to see war between China and Taiwan.
Now, finally, do you think that Xi Jinping does want a war, or he doesn't really want that? And what is his real intention in Taiwan? Just keep it as one country, two systems, like Hong Kong, or he wants to take it over?
Well, Xi Jinping has made several statements about his intentions toward Taiwan. Most of these statements have been said by previous Chinese leaders. For example, it's a historical mission of the Chinese Communist Party to return Taiwan to Chinese control, that Taiwan is an inalienable part of China, and reunification is inevitable. All of these statements have been made by previous Chinese leaders. Xi Jinping has, however, said more clearly than previous leaders what a timeline might look like. Although I don't view it myself as a hard deadline, but he has said that reunification is a requirement for national rejuvenation, the target for which is the middle of the century, the 100th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. Xi Jinping is highly unlikely to be president in China at that time. I think he would be 95 years old. But I think he wants to put the relationship with Taiwan on a trajectory of moving in that direction. And he certainly wants to prevent Taiwan from becoming independent. So for me, it's still a question mark as to whether reunification is seen by Xi Jinping as a legacy issue, something he has to achieve while he is in office. But I believe he must avoid Taiwan moving towards independence, and he would like to put the relationship, as I said, on this more sort of positive trajectory of moving in the direction of unification as opposed to moving in the direction of separation. So it could be a threat to his position and to the legitimacy of the Chinese Communist Party if Taiwan were to declare independence. So I believe that if Taiwan declared independence, that China would use force against Taiwan. The final solution may not be achieved under Xi Jinping's rule. But if the United States were to make clear that we were abandoning our one China policy, if the United States decided they would recognize Taiwan as an independent sovereign state, then I believe that Xi Jinping would go to war, even though this is not his preference. Xi Jinping and, of course, other leaders and documents in China underscore that the goal is peaceful reunification. But the definition of peaceful in China includes pressure and coercion. It is not what we would think of as peaceful. But I do think that Xi Jinping would prefer to convince the people of Taiwan that they should just negotiate with China, to induce a sense of psychological despair that Taiwan is better off if it becomes part of China, that its interests are not served by being so close to the United States. So I think that is really China's strategy and has been for a long time. I don't think they prefer to settle this issue through use of force. If China uses force against Taiwan, especially if it launches a full-scale invasion, the risk of failure is very high. There is probably no campaign for the PLA that is more difficult than an amphibious landing in Taiwan and seizing and controlling the island. So that's very risky for Xi Jinping. And so at the end of the day, I think that that's a last resort.
Oh, the last thing I just want to ask regarding, you just mentioned, Taiwan independence policy. So recently, it looks like in Taiwan society, less and less people, even just a small minority, are still talking about that, the independence. But their current president and the vice president already saying that Taiwan independence is no longer an issue in Taiwan because the Republic of China is a country. It has sovereignty and its a constitution, its democracy. So it's there. So do you think under such circumstances, do you think in U.S. policy circle, they would perceive this a progress to improve the straight both sides relationship, or whatever Taiwan says, if they don't want independence, still Xi Jinping won't change his mind?
Well, we don't know what Xi Jinping will do going forward. And in the past, even under Xi Jinping, the 1992 consensus has been considered good enough for business. Going forward, it's a question as to whether Xi Jinping would be willing to tolerate Taiwan saying, we are part of one China, but we call it the Republic of China, while the other side calls it the People's Republic of China. That worked when Ma Ying-jeou was president. I don't know whether that would be acceptable to China today. But perhaps it isn't even completely acceptable any longer to many people in Taiwan. This will be probably something that will be discussed in the run-up to the elections, because the candidates in Taiwan, of course, will have different positions. But we have seen that virtually every president of Taiwan since Lee Teng-hui has said that the Republic of China is an independent sovereign state. And the 1999 DPP platform said that the country is already an independent sovereign state. So I think from the U.S. point of view, having a consistent policy going forward, the new president, whoever that may be, continuing the policy that Tsai Ing-wen has had in the past, would be seen as stabilizing and welcome. There would be concerns if a new Taiwan president said something that was dramatically different. But importantly, the United States and Taiwan really need to have open communication channels. We've always had this policy of no surprises. That goes two ways. Taiwan shouldn't surprise the United States, but the United States also should not surprise Taiwan. We have had, I think, exceptionally good channels of communication in recent years. And so I think that as we transition to a new president in Taiwan next year, that it will be very important to maintain those channels.
Thank you so much for your time and your contribution to the Taiwanese audience, and we greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can you say just words to Taiwanese audience so we can broadcast words to them as greetings?
I wish you all a happy new year. All the best in the year of the rabbit.